Hey friends, happy Monday, the 4th of April. Nice to be with you as we kick off a new week. I'm Father Bill Hill, one of the priests at Holy Spirit Catholic Community in Rock Springs, Wyoming. It's nice to just take a moment and to pray with you. Two parish announcements. Today's the last day to fill out the Disciple Maker Index. It's linked in the sidebar for members of Holy Spirit. And please plan to join us tomorrow night over at Our Lady of Sorrows at 6 p.m. for a communal celebration of the Sacrament of Reconciliation. We as a people have sinned, and it's an opportunity for us to ask for God's mercy and forgiveness as a people. We have a long reading in the first reading, one of the longest of daily Mass readings, so I'm going to try to keep this brief. That doesn't always work for me, so that you have more time to just pray the readings and pray with God. It is the story of Susanna and her false accusers in the book of Daniel. Here would be the place that I was praying with today, is that no one listened to the voice of the victim, which is Susanna. And she turns towards the Lord, who is the only one who hears her. And then the Lord's Spirit stirs up Daniel, this young man, to speak up on her behalf and to ask for at least a minimal amount of questioning and trying. And as I was reading this, painfully, my heart went to victims of clergy sexual abuse and maybe sexual violence in general, which we as a society continue to wrestle with and struggle with and bring to the light and all of it. And just the different permutations that this has of expressing itself in conversations that we're having as a culture. But to just maybe spend that time with that question, who are we listening to? And are we listening to the voices of the marginalized, the poor, the outcast, the weary, the accused, the voices of those who've been harmed? So you might spend a little bit of time praying for victims of sexual abuse, clergy sexual abuse, and all the ways that impacts us. You might just spend some time asking that question, whose voices are we listening to? And plenty of different things for us to pray with in relation to that story of Susanna and her false accusers in the first reading. Okay, in the gospel we have John 6, the woman caught in adultery. And this is a classic double bind, which Jesus gets challenged with a number of times. Either on one hand, he refuses to condemn a woman who in the law has, deserves death by stoning. Notice, of course, that the woman is brought, but not the man that she was with, and they were caught in the very act of adultery. Go figure there. But then the second piece is if Jesus does say that they should stone this woman, then he would be violating Roman law by carrying out capital punishment against a person. So it's a double bind. There's no way that Jesus can evade the trap. But he does, right? He sits down and he writes in the dirt, and then he invites, let the one that is without sin be the first one to cast the stone. And then they filter away one after the other. Inviting them, they're trying to put it on him, he's inviting them to take responsibility for themselves. You might just spend some time. What feels like double binds these days? Either or and neither of the options work. It's so much a product of our own mind and the way that we construct the world in either or sort of thinking. To just be with the Lord and to ask that he might help us to see with those mystical eyes different ways of being in the world. And whatever it is that we're struggling with, that we're wrestling with in our own lives, that the Lord might show us that it may not be one or the other bad options, but indeed there might be that path of blessedness that we do not see at present. Okay, enough of me. Long reading ahead of you in that first reading. Read it prayerfully. See what stirs inside of you in that first reading, the psalm and the gospel. And turn off the screen, spend some time with God. God bless you, friends.